So let's dissect some of the fallout from the massive England versus New Zealand game. Once again, an absolute thriller, but once again, England falling short, and again, yes, agony for England at the end, as the rugby paper said this morning. Also talk about the players for England and for New Zealand, which players are under pressure, who might lose their place. And of course, you can win Six Nations tickets with my starting lineup, the game we're playing this season, if you can predict England, Scotland, Ireland or Wales' starting 15 for the next round of games. So we'll talk about that one, because I think you'll have a really good chance with predicting this England one. Whether you would make changes, it's all about whether Borthwick would make changes. If you use the code RugAN1, then you can play that game. We'll talk more about that later on. And if you're into non-mainstream reporting on these sorts of games, then check out our sponsor, Sports News Blitz. What I like about them is they're giving chances to young, aspiring sports journalists, students, giving them placements, internships, letting them show their talent and develop their talent. So check out Sports News Blitz if you haven't already. All the details down below. So let's talk about some of your feedback about England, and there was plenty. Lots of talk about Borthwick and his very poor bench. It was really strange. He had this 6-2 bench, no cover for centre when Slade was, the man who was just coming back from injury, and he played him a full 80 and he was kind of like meh would be the answer there. Didn't change up at all, didn't put Freeman there, didn't try Earl there, which maybe some people thought, and then he had this 6-2 split with Dombrandt coming on for no reason whatsoever. It was really strange. I didn't get it at all. England's front row came on and they got a bit munched, to be honest. So it was a poor bench. Did they choke? Well, I guess so, because 20 minutes to go, they're winning and then they lose it. So yeah, I think chokers again is kind of pretty accurate, but also not good enough coming off the bench. Taking off Marcus Smith when he's playing so great, I think is nonsensical. Smith is by far the best 10 we have, and he's playing at his best. He's developed, we saw his maturity. Yes, he had been mucking up a few drop goals, but then Ford came on and mucked up a drop goal as well, and Ford hasn't even played. So it was just a bizarre change when Marcus Smith's playing so well. Just no need to take off your best players. They took off Cunningham South and Spencer, and I just thought at the time, this is a bit weird. You're hanging on. I still thought they may hang on, but they couldn't. When they had that scrum 5 metres out, a massive chance a decent side would have a solid scrum or a dominant scrum and then bash away and probably score. But England were just chucking the ball around, absolute 6s and 7s, and then mucked up the drop goal. So yeah, is Borthwick the new Gareth Southgate? That was the other one that I got. That's an interesting debate. We'll have that maybe at the end of this Autumn Nations if it carries on like this. The other really interesting thing for me coming out of this game was the ref enforcing that no blocking the kick, making the high ball so much more dangerous and contestable, and these specialist kicking nines are going to have a field day. So again, why I think Ben Spencer's definitely going to start again in the next match. Another little bit of feedback, interesting. England whooping and celebrating individual tackles is a bit embarrassing, and they continue to do it. And I have to say, it's kind of the Saracens boys. Atoje was whooping at the ref for a high tackle that wasn't. Ben Earl does it as well. I don't like it. I've said it before. I wish I'd just stop it and get on with it. Anyway, and the other thing with England is their attack. I said their set-piece launch plays were good. They were getting over the gain line. They didn't look like finishing it off. Maybe Fewabusu was the only guy who was close, but that's a worry. If you're going to beat these teams, you've got to go for the jugular. And when they had those penalties, those long-range penalties, they wanted to kick at goal rather than really going for the corner and going for the tries they probably needed. So now let's have a look at the two teams and see who I think might be under threat for their place. Starting with England, here we go. Genge, good game. Solid in the scrum. Him and Stewart had really good games, I thought, in the scrum. Did we see a lot of them in attack? No, we didn't, but we didn't see a lot of people in attack, but they're not going to be changed. I guess you could bring in Marler for an even bigger scrum. Baxter, it was a poor game for him. I hoped of more. He is very young, so I'm probably hoping for too much. Would Marler come in on the bench for Baxter? I think that is a strong possibility. Atoje and Martin, I thought, had really strong games. Ezekwe off the bench was okay, but I can't see any change there. Cunningham South, I wanted him to be solid, make no mistakes, and that's exactly what he did. So without Chesham, I can't see him moving. I would love to see, of course, Ted Hill in this squad somewhere for absolute certain on that bench instead of Dombrandt, say. Now, Tom Curry didn't do a lot wrong. He just made a lot of tackles, but didn't affect the game particularly, didn't do more than what other players could have done. There's just so many players vying for that place. I don't see why we have to persist with Tom Curry. His brother could come in, Underhill could come in, Ben Earl can move to 7, maybe Ted Hill coming in as a big 7. Wouldn't mind that at all. Cunningham South and Ted Hill, that would add a bit more to the attack. And Ben Earl, I gave him a decent score in the review there, in my ratings, but you guys said, look, his no-arms tackle, some of his defensive plays did cost England, and that is probably true. I don't think his place is under threat as such. He was going to be in the back row somewhere, but certainly some costly actions there. Are Randall, RJVP going to come in over Spencer? I think absolutely not. Spencer, very solid, some really good kicking. Marcus Smith is going to keep his place, but what do they do with Ford? Do they bring Finn Smith in? Do they drop Ford? Well, we'll talk about what I think Borthwick will do, but I think maybe Ford's place could be under threat. In the centres, it was strange. They didn't change it up at all. They're not a combo that work together that great in attack. They're not creating genius stuff like we saw with Scotland, with Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones. They need to get some sort of chemistry in there. I'd love to see Freeman come in for Slade, or maybe even Northmore, Lazowski, someone with a bit more attacking intent there than Slade. So I think his position is kind of under threat for me, but I don't know if Borthwick would make the change. Good game for Faywa Busu, really growing into this international role, absolutely nailed down. I think Slightholme has a decent chance of coming in on one wing because Freeman really did very little. And also they've really got to think about that bench. Now, if you're going to play my starting lineup and try and win these Six Nations tickets, remember you have to get the 15 exactly. You've got to enter before they make the call, which last time was Tuesday, but it's scheduled for Thursday, so make it a little bit later, I'd say, if you can, to see if there's any injuries. I haven't heard of any injuries, and if I was going to play it, I'm not allowed to because I'm associated with them, I would go with the same 15. Tom Curry is maybe a question mark. Do they change that up? But I think Borthwick's going to be happy that he's got players like Curry and Slade a run, and they've survived, and he'll think they'll be better next week, and it's all going to be fine. I'm not sure it is, but I think he'll go for the same 15. So if you want to play that game, it's RugbyAn1 when you register, and then you make your selection. If there's an injury, though, it means you're wrong, so I would wait a little bit longer to make your selection, maybe Monday or Tuesday, and try and win those tickets. That would be awesome. Let me know how you do. Now on to the All Blacks. What was the feedback from you guys on the All Blacks? Well, penalties. Lots of silly things. This actually wasn't, again, a fantastic performance from the All Blacks. I thought their broken field running was really, really good, but they gave away a lot of penalties, a lot of silly mistakes. They dropped the ball a fair bit, and also the line-out was a mess. So these are things that were problems in the summer. They're still a problem now, but they won, which is great. But again, the All Blacks fans, I think, are looking at this going, this still isn't quite right. Those tackles off the ball were just giving away silly penalties. However, big positives, like I said, broken field, particularly Wallace Satiti, just ridiculous. His sidesteps, his power, his pace. He could play in multiple positions in this team. If he had three of Satiti's, I think he'd play 6, 8 and centre as well. He's that good. Looking at guys that are under threat, Tamatai Williams didn't have a great day in the scrum. He could be under threat. His body position supporting his weight didn't seem to be the best, but scrum experts out there, let me know what you think. So he could come under fire. We had Patrick Tuipulotu coming on, and he was on fire. He did drop that ball when the ball bounced off the post, which could have cost him the game, but luckily didn't because he made such an impact. He is quick, he is powerful. Considering he's a veteran, it's really impressive. I could potentially see him replacing either Scott Barrett or Vai if it was up to me, but Scott Barrett's the captain. Vai's been playing there for a while, but Barrett and Tuipulotu in the second row, yep, I'll be very happy with that if you want to really beef up that pack. But yeah, Tuipulotu pushing for a start for sure. In the back row, well, Satiti's not going anywhere. Surveyor's not going anywhere. Kane had a decent game. I don't think he's going to go anywhere, but that is the position that you could potentially change. One position that I think could well change is Roygaard getting another game under his belt. I think he comes in for Ratimer. I think they know. I think that Robertson knows that Roygaard is his man when he's fit. So I think I'd make that change for next week. Beauden Barrett's going to stay at 10. But let's talk about the centres, Geordie Barrett and Ioane. Now, they're both not the most natural creators. They both prefer to run. That's potentially why Leonard Brown's on the bench. But goodness me, Rico Ioane, he committed the ultimate sin, not giving a massive overlap. He wasn't under any pressure. He could have given the pass early, late, at any time, but he held on to it. He's done it before. I think it's got to be saying, look, that's enough of that. Let's put a proper 13 in there. Let's get Proctor in there and get some more ball playing. Yes, you could put Leonard Brown in there, but Proctor's the man for me. Talea, he's just a tub of grease. How he slips out of different situations, I don't know. Some really good finishes. To be fair, Ford's tackle, like I said on him, was absolutely pathetic. I mean, even in a decent amateur team, if a back came across for a cover tackle, stand up, grabby like that, you'd be having conversations like whether he should play for the first team again. It was that bad, just absolutely disgraceful stuff. Anyway, Will Jordan is making that 15 shirt his own. In attack, in defence, high ball, he's looking the man. Do you make some changes on the bench? Possibly not, because that front row came on and did a real number in the scrum, although Amua, again, real big problems there with the line out, so he might change. Tuipulotu was great. Finau I thought was pretty good. Leonard Brown obviously came on and had a bit of a mare with yellow cards, so he may be chopped for that. Mackenzie had a bit of an impact, so I think a few positions under threat for England and for New Zealand. But please let me know your thoughts the day after that game and what positions you think are under threat and why. Pop all those comments down below. Do subscribe, do like if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing loads of videos for these November Internationals. Anyway guys, I will catch you next time.